It's August 22nd, 2021, and this is my new sun day. These are my team meetings. I just saw a sparkle, a gold sparkle. Pew. Thank you. I'm very grateful, filled with gratitude for having a life like this with contact, with the reminders, not of just who I am, that I'm more than I was told, but to help others remember this too. We are all one being, humanity, and some of us are finding our way back to that inner divine spark and that home frequency. And that is occurring completely independently of what we were educated within here. And some of this is happening through contact with what we perceive in this dimensional realm as other and not from here. And perhaps not from the agreed upon spectrum of reality here. But I'm just not so sure about all the given explanations, except the one that comes from within when I attune to it as they taught me. That's where the truth comes from, inside. And if we are attuning, that means that we are able to harmonize with it and hear it and perceive it. And this took many years for me to correct the slips and the dips into programming here. As a child, I was very connected to these beings, these gold light, angelic looking beings. That's what I was connected to in the beginning. And that changed over time when others that looked differently than that arrived. But all of this was in an altered state, perceiving other dimensions, our feminine nature, which informs us in non-linear ways. Many of us are waking up to that, and it's not because someone told us or we read a book. It's because these non-human intelligences, let us say, are demonstrating to us who we are. They don't just come and go, all right, sit down, lesson number 1. They interact with us in just brilliant ways that if we will respond to them and engage with them and dialogue with them, they will teach. They teach us who we are. They point to our inner technology. They're trying to point out our design that has been almost eliminated, I would say, in the greater population. But there's still way more than enough human beings that can shift this, turn this around by not hiding anymore, not bowing down to the old paradigm values and systems, and seeking the authority within. I don't want to get too left brain here. I need to stay in the... it's not my job to teach on this level. The way I understand it is it's my job to assist those who are choosing this now. I can, with the help of these beings that I'm connected to, I can help deliver an experience for you. They want to give you an experience so that you can begin correcting these things within you, these, to make these adjustments and to help you attune to these higher frequencies that if you are expanding now, and that's really all these, I'm talking to people who are expanding. This was made clear to me in the past week. I can't reach people who have chosen to stay in fear and contracting and judgment. And so I'm becoming more clear who my, for lack of a better term, who my audience is. I'm working with people who are actively expanding. And some people might not even be aware of what trajectory, what path they chose. Mainly, I'm speaking of expansion or contraction. Yet they will still gravitate to my work or other people who are here to assist humanity in the growing pains of expansion. It's a real thing. It's a nuanced path. And so one must be actively working and engaged with their inner guide, presence, source, the angels. It really doesn't matter what you want to call this inner intelligence. It's more important that you choose to reconnect, because this is your navigational system. This is what helps you to expand. It reminds me of the Golden Compass. I saw the movie years ago, and I was just amazed. I was wowed by it, because it's like, yeah, this is the daemon. And the word is so much like demon that, people who have been programmed through the organized religion will immediately dismiss it. But we do have this inner emotional, spiritual guidance. But in order to access that, we really have to come to that death and rebirth, where you realize, oh, I get it. It might be like not too different from describing in the 12-step program, when you hit rock bottom. There has to be an absolute acknowledgement of, yeah, this isn't working. So let's let go of that, and let's see what we can discover about who we are and what our potential is for expanding into something greater. I feel like the 12-step program is a wonderful tool. But as I have spoken often, the tools that just send us back into the same system adapting to the same systems that made us, sick to begin with, because it is not healthy to agree to eliminate important pieces of our consciousness. That has to be addressed so that we can expand beyond this old world, old sun, old paradigm, and into the new sun. So I work with people who know that there's no more, as Jesus told me in a dream years ago, we're not remodeling this time. And that has stuck with me, and that has given me that. It's one of those inner markers that stays with me. I've had a few dreams like that have, kept me, even though I take dips here and there and I get confused and I cry out and ask for more data, more information, more clarity. It has always been one of those markers of, oh yeah, when Jesus found me in the dream. I've talked about this dream before. But it was in the aftermath. And he was looking for me, and he found me and leaned into me and said very intently, we are not remodeling this time. And then I got the feeling inside my heart and my body of expansion and remembrance. And, in other words, we're not going to go back and keep trying to improve something that by its very nature can never improve, because it's fragmented consciousness believing that it has everything it needs to live life, and it doesn't. I mean, you can, but that's definitely been proven. And again, that's not my job to talk about how narratives are controlled, and sometimes I'll touch on it, but my service is to help people feel again, help people tell the truth, to understand what that is, to help people with this tool that this non-human intelligence gave me to wake up and remember. And it's really only for those people who realize, they've hit rock bottom. They know that the old world, we can't remodel it, that we're moving on. So those who are unafraid of stepping into the unknown, well, there's always fear. Trust me, there's fear when you start to feel the rush of this higher frequency love that is initially very challenging to allow in. And that's why the purification occurs, so that room can be made for this love to flow through. Love can be very terrifying because it's so foreign. And all the people who like to use that term in a derogatory way, the love and light, or love and lighters, they think they're in a position of power, saying that they have no idea that the level of terror that they carry within them of love itself, of divine love, because they're in constant defending against it and laughing at it. And so when this light begins to pour in greater and greater ways, as they've shown me. This, if there's no place for it to go, and if it's been blocked, that's when what's the Bible reference and the gnashing of the teeth. That's all I can remember in this moment. It's like that's hell. That's hell when you've blocked love and it's pouring in to meet you, and you haven't readied yourself for it. You haven't attuned to it. You don't know what love is. And that's not a judgment of you. It's simply that these are programs in place, programming, and also, passed down through the generations to stay with that programming for the next phase, the next cycle of humanity trapped inside this smaller spectrum, looping. And yet the beings tell me that, never judge anyone, because of who they are or where they are, what their lot in life was, that any one of these people can wake up. They can receive and, allow the burning away and the purifying, and stand strong and let go and allow this light. If they can take it, they will enter into the expanding path. All we can do, really, is come back to ourselves, our center, our heart. What are we choosing? Do we even know what we're choosing? How is this done? How do we consciously expand? And I already covered step number 1. You must be actively dialoguing with that internal divine authority within. People have called that God in the past, but that term doesn't work for me. There's a lot of words and terms and phrases that don't work for me because of the charge around it from the past. So I use different words so that I'm free to expand and, make up my own language and definitions as I go, which is what I like to call my maps. They're like the breadcrumbs I leave on the trail. These recordings are like breadcrumbs. And I don't know if they'll be useful to anyone. But what I share is what this is actually like. Not as a spiritual teaching, but what this actually feels like. To experience the death and rebirth events numerous times and, wake up to what is within and to listen and to trust and to continue to let go, no matter what everyone is saying around you. You must have the strength to continue to connect with the inner divine and know that as the truth and practice that as the truth. And one of the hardest things for people is they can feel that, and they in their secret private practice, their meditation or yoga or whatever it is they do, they can feel it and they can have that experience. But then as soon as they go into the world and someone says, yeah, we got to go, we have to go take a stand with the war, or we have to do this, or we need to, whatever the argument is, the war. How do you respond to that after you've had an expanding experience? If you're called into that, if you're called back into the old paradigm, there are ways to stand in your truth without arguing. It's not about arguing. It's about being it. When you are embodying it, you don't have to argue with anyone. In fact, you begin to disappear in their reality. And I can talk more about that another time. Because they're beginning to show me and teach me now about how these all dimensions at the same time, same place, exist. I mean, it all exists simultaneously. And it is all about perception. So how do you open your eyes and ears? How do you reactivate the technology you were designed with? First of all, it's important to know that that old world that we were living in before the COVID event occurred, which is all part of this transition. Everybody gets to experience what their reaction is to this virus and their stories and their tribes that are built up around their stories. Or you can just go within and establish that connection with the Navigator within and begin shifting to a larger spectrum with other beings that reside in this spectrum. Some of these beings will actually reach out to humans in the smaller spectrum, by creating ships and lights and events, paranormal, They have ways of doing that. But they're not coming to establish a rapport with you, to as you remain in this limited view. They're calling on you to rise out of it, to remember who you are, and have a rapport with you. They're not going to enable you to stay in this programming. They're here to assist you in expanding out of it. Really, what I was dialoguing about, what's coming up in the last few days for me is, really knowing which path, which world did you choose? Because in one of my previous videos, I shared the map that they were giving me in my mind's eye. The "you are here" on the map. And that was July, roughly. This July 2021, where we were, solidifying more what our decision is. We're going to stay with the old world and cycle back into, go through another procession of the equinox with the limited ideas that we need these outer world authorities and rules and not discover who we actually are. Continue to explore that. And then there's the path of expansion, which is an entirely different kind of path that isn't just suddenly, angels and heaven and, living in tropical paradise and drinking Mai Tais. it's actually the spiritual warrior path. It is the initiation into being a vehicle for the divine. There's still a lot of old programming that needs to be burned away, and it will, on the path of expansion. It's a commitment. And as I have shared, or the beings shared with the groups, the Enter the Dialogue groups that we're doing, and they shared through these guided meditations that you're in the Vesica Pisces, you're in the center, you're in the Mandorla. You are kind of moving back and forth between, here's what expansion feels like. Oh, I fell backwards. I wanted to fit into my family tribe and not stand out. So I denied, these aspects of me that are growing and expanding. I pretended like they weren't there so I could still fit in with the old world. And in order to move across that threshold and stay in the expansion, we have to be truthful. We have to be it, no matter what. And that takes great courage, and that is what a spiritual warrior is. We can't have it both ways. And so, while July 2021 was like the marker for, okay, you are choosing which world you are moving, you are remaining in for a new cycle, or you are expanding into and practicing and radiating and remembering, what your greater gifts are, soul gifts. And so, but the latest data is that we're still, it's just that we're in the in-between now. And we're crossing back and forth. And even though we have decided, it's still possible for those who chose expansion to fall back and say, no, I really need to just stay with what I know and go back around. And perhaps when these openings occur again, these new suns, then perhaps I'll be ready, really ready. And then there are those that are seemingly moving with the smaller reality that will suddenly have an awakening. It can still happen in this time, is what they showed me. And they need particular encouragement and support because it will be more new to them, because they will not necessarily be, in they won't have a persona or an identity or a place in society that you would expect an awakening. It's a very surprise kind of thing that can happen. I had to take a little break and I'm back. And I was just dialoguing out loud. I don't know how I can be of the greatest service now except to just demonstrate. That's all I can do. There's nothing to teach. If you're here expanding, it's just, it's a wholly new path. It is, again, I've said this many times, when I do this, I feel like I am sending messages back to my old self, the one who really needed to hear from someone, some perspective from someone who is expanding, who did break through the fear, who is welcoming the light, and still radically changing and transforming. It keeps going. It keeps expanding. And so in other words, I'm I'm trying to reach those who know that, who can feel that what I'm saying has value. It's like a voice that helps assure them that they are valid and they do have purpose, even though you've not been able to see it mirrored in the old construct paradigm. That's crazy making. I know that's crazy making. But I'm here to say, keep going, keep moving, keep expanding, because you will break through and you will remember why you are so driven to expand even when you don't know how to explain it to anybody around you. Even if you can't explain it, I know the beings said this to me numerous times and in different ways, as they do, that just because you can't explain something doesn't mean you shouldn't go there and explore it and engage with it. Don't let that stop you because you can't explain it. This is where a lot of people trip up. It's where I tripped up many times. It's like, oh, they must be right because I can't explain it. Well, you're entering territories where you can't explain these things. You never will be able to explain it, reduce it to, food or fodder, or comfort. It's like comfort food for the 3D mind. And this is really, this contact with non-human intelligence. It's like, this is what they are. They're helping to entrain us again to our natural state. And we have to adapt to it. We have to, these are muscles that we have not been using. They have been dormant for, eons. And we need to stretch and practice and forgive ourselves when we, try to move too fast, or we realize, oh my God, I've been stuck and I haven't been taking action and, engaging with this inner navigator. It's okay. You're always forgiven. It's like, okay, here's a new present moment. Jump in. That's the portal. Each time a new present moment portal opens up when you are practicing the presence in the ways that you are inspired to practice. It doesn't have to be the tool that the beings gave me. It's just that you need to show up. And that's 90% of the battle. And that's when you start to realize, when you start to receive data and guidance from within, you realize that it is absolutely not translatable to those who are choosing to stay in contraction and inside that small spectrum. It's like the visual spectrum, and within a certain spectrum. It's like, this is what human beings can hear and see. Well, it's actually not true. That's what you've been told you can see and hear and perceive. That topic is for others to explain further. My job, my service is to say, keep going, because I have been traveling on this expansion path for most of my life, and I understand what it feels like. I've been there. And I know what it feels like to slip back, to give up, because there's no one around you supporting you or encouraging you. No one. Seeing you, hearing you. I understand that. The other thing I understand is what love feels like, divine love, and how it keeps expanding. It keeps filling you up. It keeps informing you. I have to laugh sometimes when I realize, I was exposed to the Bible when I was a young girl, and because my mom made me go to church and all that stuff. And some of these Bible verses will come back, and it's like, oh, now I know what Jesus meant by when he said that, And so when you start to have some of these direct experiences of the divine, you go, oh, I get it. And then you go, oh, I see how they're keeping humanity small by interpreting it that way, right? You just start to see all of it. And what the point is we keep choosing expansion. No matter how scared we get, how nervous we get, because we are literally walking in the unknown territories. Well, let me correct that. They are not completely unknown. The ancient beings that we were, they know these territories very well. And that's who you're meeting in this expanding time. These ancient aspects of you. It's an extraordinary time of choosing now. And I'm just here to pop in when I can, when I have the time to share these. I do these every week, sometimes more than once a week. And I just record them and I put them away, just like I did with all the messages from the beings. Sharing pieces of stuff on YouTube and, from them on YouTube and on the blog. But we stopped the blog for a while because they were saying we need to rise to a new level to share this in a bigger way. And I was caught in a loop, I realized it did have value for a while, putting all this into typed words. But it's all happening and accelerating so fast now that there is no time for me to, by the time I have an experience and then type it up, try and articulate it in language, too much is lost in translation. And it is exhausting for me to use that platform in that way. So this method, recording my connecting times, and I always do that, but then sharing them with you. I've heard from some of you that this is very helpful to you. And I'm happy to do this to reach you, because I feel in reaching you, I'm reaching a previous version of myself that was crying out and saying, I don't know how to do this. They just see me as crazy. And yet I know this is the truth. I can feel it in my body. I feel it in my heart. I feel joy, ecstasy, the beauty. Just when you start to feel and reorient to your natural state, it's like the colors just come alive in your world and the natural world and the natural world beings, the synchronicities that occur. I mean, it is fucking amazing. And I'm still here, so it must be that I continue my service in this way to just share what it's like to open to the unknown and let that old world go and that old orientation to the small spectrum of reality, and to trust. Trust this divine light within you. It's the most real thing there is. If you haven't felt it before, it's very easy to judge it. But once you feel it, you will never judge it again. I promise you. You'll go, oh, I get it. And then you'll be on the path of continued expansion. It's a journey. It really is a journey. It's not a sudden, yay, we made it. Let's party. It is for the dedicated traveler, the dedicated explorer, the courageous ones. And we need more of you to show up and keep moving. You keep moving too. You know, we have a tendency to set up camp somewhere and start to build our dogma, you know, and our commerce platforms. There's nothing wrong with that. But we are in a transition time. So the currency, when we begin to reclaim and accept our divine currency, this will look differently in the world that you are creating and that you are co-creating with others who are expanding. Everything is going to look different. It's the universal Wild West. And we are creating it as we go. And we are not alone. We are here. We just need to be connected with each other and to be receptive to the continuing changes that this divine light is doing. It is here. It is transforming us. And we surrender to it because we can feel the frequency of home. We can feel the joy of this, the beauty of it, the grace. Not in theory, not in concept, in actuality, in the embodiment of it. This is how it works now. We are expanding. And let's support each other, help each other in this expansion. It's never going to be what you think it is. It's a feeling, knowing path. And if you're hearing my voice, just know that if I've posted this somewhere, this is purely 100% experimental. I don't have a plan. I'm being who I am, and I'm broadcasting it because I know that that's my service. I know that I am a broadcaster of the expansion, and I'm guided to the persons, places, and things that are in resonance with me. And we help each other as we journey through the unknown. And I thank you, my fellow travelers. I'm living in the moment. Every step that I take is because I am moved by this light to take the step. And every word I speak is because I am moved by this light to speak the words. I am reorienting to this source flow. I'm reorienting to our original design. And if you are hearing me, thank you. If you've gotten this far in this recording without rejecting what I'm saying, congratulations and welcome. You are here to broadcast and be this as well. My love to you.
I remember the night I 'Cause the